What is up, adventurers? Today we're going to be talking about GvG martial art tier list. Now, before I continue, because I can already see you guys in the comments atting me, this tier list is just mostly from my experience and is not 100% accurate since I'm not really the best. But I can say that I have enough GvG experience and GvG knowledge to share my thoughts on this. So, if I miss something and if you think that there are things that I should have considered, feel free to let me down in the comments so we can have a discussion. Now, the purpose of this video is to hopefully help new players that are trying to get into GvGs and is not sure about the viability of their current martial art. Well, and also seasoned GvG players who can hopefully share their thoughts on this. With that out of the way, let's first set the parameters of this tier list. The ranking will be based on ease of use to reward ratio. So for example, if you're someone like me who's not really gifted mechanically, you can still have an impact on GvGs while using S tier martial arts. So S tier will be the easiest to use while still having an impact on GvGs. A tier, you kinda have to have your brain on, or you have to have at least an average level when it comes to mechanics. Or your individual skill should be kinda up there, but not really, like leaderboard level or godlike level. But even with that average skill, you can still have an impact. B tier, you really have to be good. Otherwise, your martial art is just taking up a slot. C tier, unless you're godlike with the weapon or with the martial art, I just can't see the value. It's also worth mentioning here that the EX skills, or ultimates rather, they are taken into consideration since that is one of the things that highlights the martial arts impact. Okay, so let's get right to it. For S tier, for the easier martial arts that you can use and still having an impact, I would say it's everyone's favorite to have in their army. We have the Thundercry Blade. Even though you're not really that good at PvP, even if you're just like a PvE player and just loves playing GvGs, having being a Moblade player or a Thundercry Blade rather will still net an impact just because of how good the Big Suck is, or its EX skill. Together with Moblade, I would say, or Thundercry Blade, I would say Nameless is up there. Now, Nameless is a really good nuke, really big damage. Nameless Sword is just it's just a very good DPS weapon. You just have to know how to position, like the basics of GvG. Treat yourself as a ranged DPS. The EX skill, also the Chi Shields, it's a really good defensive skill, or even like an offensive one if you're like going for an execute. What are the things I would consider S tier? Of course, you have your Panacea fan, and even maybe the Soul Shade. The reason why I'm kinda debating if I want to put Soul Shade here is because maybe some people will just have like weird builds, let's say like a Thundercry Soul Shade or whatever. I haven't really seen other people doing like that kind of builds in GvGs. So, in itself, sorry, I have to drink water. In itself, Soul Shade I think would be at least A because of how you have to think when to buff or when to heal in itself. But if it's together with the Panacea fan, it is easily an S. Now, Nameless Spear, I think. Nameless Spear. For Nameless Spear, I think this would be an S just because it's usually paired with the Nameless Sword. It's a really good endurance buffer. Even the EX skill is really good as well. The anti-silence. If it's paired with the Nameless Sword, it's easily an S. But if it's like paired with any other thing, which, well, I'm not really familiar with other builds using GvGs. In 1v1s, of course, I see Snow Parting, Nameless, Strategic Nameless, or even Twinblade Nameless. But those builds, I don't really think they're really good for GvGs, personally. But yeah, I'll just put it at A, just because if we're talking about in itself. Now, on S tier, again, I would consider this S if it's paired with what's his face, with Nameless Sword. Panacea, of course, and Soul Shade, their ults or their EX skills rather, they are just really strong when it comes to GvGs. The Panacea what do you call this? Super healing and super armor on itself on the user. Um, Even after the nerfs for heals or for revives rather, where you can't really spam revives, it's still easily a very important part of your war. So these things, or the four of these, you really need. You kind of really need to have this in your wars or in your GvG roster. Uh, what else would I consider as Twin Blade? Twin Blade is really strong, but I think personally you kind of have to have a little bit of skill involved. So let's say if it's paired, usually the most popular build right now that has been used, like the Thundercry blade and the Twin Blade, I would put it at S because of how strong the anti-heals are, and just because you can spam left clicks after your EX skill. But in itself, I would say it's A, just because of what's his face. You kind of have to know when to cast your if you're playing like a DPS and not a tank Twin Blade. You kind of have to know when to dive in, because otherwise you're just gonna die. Or if you're going for backlines, you want to know, you want to have maximum impact on this thing when you're going for, like, let's say Nameless, the range DPS, their healers. You kind of have to know when to cast your ult and when to have the most impact out of it. I don't see anything else that could be considered S. Yeah, so for that, I think those are our S tier martial arts, or the easiest ones to use while still having an impact. Let's go to A tier here. For A tier, I would say maybe Stormbreaker. Stormbreaker is really solid for its neutral gameplay. It has a lot of debuffs, a lot of tankiness. Usually, it's paired with Thundercry. It's paired with Thundercry Blade, or I don't know. Maybe if you run like a Snow Parting and Stormbreaker. I don't really see that in GvGs, but in 1v1s I see that. Stormbreaker. Again, it's a lot of debuffs, a lot of buffs. The EX skill, I just put it in A. I would put it at S if the ultimate or the EX skill was better. But because the EX skill is just really kind of a subpar protection skill, mostly it benefits the user. If the field, or what do you call this, if its EX skill follows the user, like wherever you're going, just like how Nameless Spear is. If its ult is like so much, if its ults follow you around, I would put it at S because of how much protection it gives. But because it just stays on one area, and sometimes, I don't know, sometimes there's some weird interaction that even though you're in the Stormbreaker ult, you still get staggered, or your teammates get staggered rather. So I'll just put it at A. Everspring Umbrella right now, I think it has just risen in popularity right now. It has a lot of anti-heals when it comes to its EX skills and even attunements, but the attunements, I don't see it being part of the rotation, but because of the EX skill, it's just really good. The only thing that I think why it's in A tier, because sometimes it can be a range DPS and it can be a melee DPS, so the user has to know when he or she should be doing range DPS and just going in, because if they're just going in without thinking, they just die. And usually they're built for damage, right? Unless you're not really building for damage, but then again, why not just go for tanks if you're building for a tank, if you're using this. What else should I consider a strategic sword? Actually, strategic sword, I would, before the patch, I would say it was like kind of C tier. B would be generous before the patch or before the GvG changes. Right now, the ult is just it's just stronger. So the EX skill is wider. The value has just is just better. I just put it at A because after the ult, the player has to be a little bit, has to be a little bit gifted He has to know what he's doing. The player has to know what they're doing when they're going to dive, because this is one of the squishier classes as well. Together with Heaven Quaker, I would say Heaven Quaker is at A as well, because they buff their ult as well. It now has float, so you can knock people airborne and it can be casted twice. But then again, the player has to know when to cast this, not just willy-nilly casting it whenever. Actually B, I would say they're B, no? I would say they're B just because people have to be a little bit mechanically gifted to have a lot more impact on this. Okay, I think I'm comfortable putting them at B. What other things? Okay, Inkwell Fan. Inkwell Fan has been nerfed because of the Relentless and Sprint. So the walls right now are not really the go-to for stopping 3 phases, but I think I would still put this at A. I would still put this as A just because of how strong the debuff is of their EX skill. No, actually, if we're just talking about EX, because the fan realistically in itself, you just have to be what do you call this? You have to know when to cast it as well, right? Like, it's for blocking enemies. If you're just spamming it, I think would I don't know, man. Like, I think it's fine if you're spamming it, but if you're like going for executes with your other martial arts, I think Inkwell Fan should be thought of, or people should be thinking when they're using this. I'll take it. I'll put it at B, just together with the strategic sword. So B tier. If B tier has to be, you have to be kind of mechanically gifted for this. Rope dart, or the twin blade rope dart. Now, in itself, of course, it's not really usable, so it's usually paired with your twin blade. It's usually for the assassin class type beat. So with the upgrades or with the buffs to its ult, its EX skill, I think this thing is just really strong. But because you have to have rats on to have really maximize its potential of the immobilize, you kind of have to know what your class does. So I wouldn't put it at A as well. I would have put this at A, but because of just how the rats work, before you're going in, you should have your rats on. So the person who should be doing this or should be using this should know their class. So I'll just put it at B. Maybe a little bit higher, just because of the I think this thing just has more value than these two. Personally, I know some of you won't agree, but this is a personal thing. Vernal. Now Vernal, unfortunately, I don't think Vernal has a lot of impact, even if paired with the Inkwell. And I don't know other builds that are paired with the Vernal as well, so I would put it at C, unless you're like really godlike with this thing, you know. You really know how to flank, because this is more of a disruption. This is more of an assassin class as well. The range DPS, I wouldn't depend on the range DPS of this thing, because if you want to play range DPS, why not just run Nameless, right? Run Nameless Sword, or even Vernal. Unfet. What's his name? The Everspring. So I would just put it at C, just because even the EX skill, man, the invisible, the invis thing, if it buffed the team, I would say this would be like at least an A, but it doesn't buff the team, it just buffs yourself. So I would put it at C. Snow parting, this one's kind of an iffy one. Let's do Phalanx first. Okay, so Phalanx Bane is an easy A. I would put it at S, but because of how squishier you are, and you actually have to have a little bit of mechanics for this thing, I'll just put it at A. The reason why I'm putting this at A, it has a lot of tenacity, so the person who's using this doesn't have to be like really mechanically gifted. He's just has to know the basics. It also with the buffs to its ult or the EX skill, it now gives airborne or float. So if you're casting this for, let's say, big team fights, you're getting a lot of value, a lot of damage, a lot of CCs, and I think with those alone, just having to know the basics of this class, you are already netting a lot. Snow parting, I would put snow parting at A if it's if it's paired with the phalanx bane, just because you're buffing phalanx bane with your snow parting. But if in snow parting alone, I don't think it's really good. Even the EX skill, if the EX skill gives shields to everyone, I think that would be okay. But from the description, it says only 5 people. I could maybe if you upgrade it to tier 5, since I don't have a lot of Wonder Jades, if you have upgraded to tier 5, if it shields everyone, then sure, we could like consider it as a B. But in itself, even on its neutral gameplay without the what's his face, without the EX skill, I think it's an ECC. If we're considering tower damage or bulwark damage, this thing melts objectives, but there's a lot of other things to consider in in GvG other than just bulwark damage. And then again, you can just use nameless, or even, I don't know, Thundercry slams. They do a lot of bulwark damage. I have 2 Thundercries. I got to delete this. Okay, you know what? Never mind that. And then lastly, we have the Unfettered Rope Dart. Well, this is usually built with Everspring anyway, unless there are other builds that I'm not really familiar with. This is, I would put this at A, because even in itself, the EX skill already gives you a lot of value, damage amp for your team. What's his face? Chi damage, which is huge right now because chi damage has been adjusted. Unfettered is A. I would say it's A. It also has it also has tenacity on the spinny thing, the when you do the spin, so it's like some sort of protection for yourself if you're trying to position. So yeah, and I think that's it for all the existing martial arts. So we got S. These are the easier classes to use, easier weapons to use. A tier, kinda easy to use, but you know, you actually have to turn your brain on. B, this is where you should know what your class does or what your purpose is. Sorry, I forgot about that. I misclicked that. B is where you should know your class, where you should know what your role does. And C, again, unless you're really good at the weapon, I don't think you have really big impact on GvGs. So yeah, I think that's it. So if you are a new player who is thinking about joining GvGs and you're currently running one of these weapons or one of these martial arts, you can use this as a basis. Again, this is not 100% accurate. This I could be wrong, because I'm really sure that nobody knows everything. That is why one of the reasons too that I hope that you guys would share me your thoughts on this. What would be considered here? You know, what would be added, what would be adjusted, and this is personally from my point of view, from my experience. So yeah, feel free to let me know. So I think that's it, guys. There's nothing much to add here. I'm just yapping at this point, and I'll see you guys on the next one.